Welcome back to a special episode of The Human Edge. In fact, our first episode that I quickly titled Quick Takes. And what these are is when something happens out there, when there's some pretty hot topic news, Scott and I want to get on and talk about it and share it while it's still in the headlines. And some of this stuff may be in its infancy and hasn't made it around. Others we might be a little bit late to the show, but it's something we're going to feel it's worth talking about, especially if it has relevance to what Scott and I are passionate about, and that is AI and integrating AI into your life, into your business, the people side of it. And so this topic, this news story is dead on in that. And Scott, you're traveling. You're at Jacksonville International Airport right now, correct?
I am, of all days, too. It's been a pretty big news week, and I'm traveling on the Friday of a pretty big holiday weekend. So, timing is what it is, but I'm excited to jump on because we have some things that are happening out there in the AI and career and work related and, platforms that we need to talk about a little bit.
Yeah, well, and today the news is that we're discussing is Ford. Ford has brought back approximately 350 experienced engineers after quality initiatives kind of tanked for them, and they were really suffering.
Yeah. And you know what came to mind too? I love to absorb a headline and even what's the news? What's the actual story? And I think to myself, what are people going to take away from this? And if you just look at the headline, I know we're going to go 2, 3 layers deep. Patrick, if you just see that headline about what happened at Ford and they're bringing back 350 engineers, when you look at the headline, you're going to think, okay, this is all bad for AI. It's not quite that. It's interesting. There's going to be some really good lessons learned for people and companies about AI. This isn't all bad about AI, but it does show the value of the role of humans in these processes.
It's one of those stories where when the headlines are being inundated with stories of these tech companies and all these different businesses letting go of hundreds and thousands of people, it seems like weekly these make the headlines. And now there's a story of a big three automaker, Ford, my favorite automobile, by the way. I'm a Ford truck guy. And now they thought that they could take this AI technology and replace a bunch of engineers in the business, in the manufacturing of vehicles. And they found out that it was a huge failure for them. And they had to go, I believe they call them graybeards. They had to go and bring these experienced engineers back. And there are a lot of takeaways. Again, the lesson here is not that AI doesn't work. The lesson is it needs experienced people to guide, validate, and improve it. The models need to be trained. And Ford, their big mistake was they got rid of the people, brought in AI, and there was no crossover, right? There was no training of it. There was none of that senior experienced human edge, if I may, integrating with it.
Yeah. And one of the good things is I think Ford realizes that, clearly demonstrated by the fact they're bringing a lot of these people back, 350 of them. You have to take the knowledge. If AI is going to replace the role of something that a human's been doing for however long the case is, they have to make sure that all that subject matter expertise, all that industry and legacy knowledge is integrated into the AI. Some of this, Patrick, another theme that I love is some of this seems really obvious. And it's easy for me to say, sitting here looking from the outside in, well, why wouldn't you have made sure that all that knowledge, and I have a response to this too, but why wouldn't you have made sure, this is rhetorical, that all that knowledge of 300 plus engineers was not already incorporated into the AI, the technology, the automation? But this is what you and I talk about. Executing this is really difficult. It's hard to do. And that's why you and I are recognizing the importance of companies and organizations, regardless of the size. You can't rush this. When you're implementing and adopting AI in certain areas, you don't want to rush it.
No. Well, and it can't be rushed. It has to have an implementation plan. And I think that the story that's great about Ford is Ford is a great American success story, right? And they are one of the reasons I'm really pro Ford, even though grew up Ford, is simply because that during the bailout, if you remember the automaker bailout, Ford didn't take any money Ford's like, no, we're going to do this. We can make this work. We don't need to take money. And so I thought that, to me, that spoke volumes about the company. And I do know they make a really great truck, owning a Ford Raptor myself. And I've driven pickup trucks for many, many years, and they've always been a great experience. And so you get a company like Ford who then brings in AI and just kind of messes up so huge with it. It's a real story in the fact that AI is so new, and I believe it's people expect more out of it than what it's capable of, at least at this time. And I think that any of this technology has to be trained. I've talked in my other podcast, the Tradepreneur Show, about the Tesla robots that are being developed, right? And how exciting it would be to have a few at the general air conditioning business, because it could do the menial tasks that are repetitive and could be even high risk, like emptying the trucks and stuff like that. But they could clean at night and so on and so forth. But it's not like you just plug and play. These things have to be trained. They have to be trained, and it's an intense project. And AI has to be trained as well. So I think what Ford did is what I'm guilty of, and a lot of people are guilty of, is they overestimated the capability of AI, and to some extent underestimated the value that the human edge in real engineers, experienced engineers, been there, done that type of people bring to the table.
Yeah, no question. And I think this is an opportunity, one of our favorite words, you and I, this is an opportunity for people in general, as you're looking at seeing, hearing more about this story, but also a lot of companies. This is a great lesson. And easy for me to say, I'm not the one absorbing some of the cost or wasted time on the end of Ford. And, hopefully they continue moving forward as the company that they've been for a long time. I know you're a fan. And yeah, there's a lot that I admire about that company, never having owned one, well, since high school. But this is a chance. If I was advising Ford in this case, and maybe they're already doing, I've read several articles about it as well as takes on X, but I don't have any interconnections to tell me differently. I think leadership at Ford should embrace this to a point where they could say, hey, this is a great lesson for us, so that as we implement and adopt AI in other areas, we're now going to do it better because of what we learned in this rollout, in this initiative. And secondly, what you said, Patrick, where you were going was exactly right. We need that human touch. We need people who've been there, done that, to look at a result and bring some of that experience they've had, because they've seen it in so many different scenarios over the years. Again, I don't want to get too technical. A, I'm not capable, and B, it would be boring, but AI is pattern recognition, and it's pulling a lot of data to spit out, output based on patterns. That's great. It's very productive, but patterns sometimes miss what a human eye and human experience could often have seen many times in their past. And we can't lose that. No business should lose that going forward.
What we always talk about, and what got us down the road to this podcast and the Take Control AI endeavor, is the belief that AI won't replace you unless you let it, number one. Number two, people will still be needed. They may be needed in different capacities. There'll be different skill sets, and companies will be able to scale with less people, because you have, let's say, one engineer can maybe do the work of 10 engineers with utilizing AI correctly. It is a testament to the fact that human beings are unique and they bring a certain skill set to the table. For instance, like designing a vehicle, the human being brings a certain understanding of what's sleek and sexy and high performance and rugged and durable and all of those things. AI needs to be trained on how to do that, but AI is not going to get an emotion inside them when it looks at this high performance vehicle or this rugged looking truck. And that's what the human element, the human edge is and always will be. And so I think it's a great headline of the true story of AI and integration with human beings. And it's just another testament that do not fear the future. It will change. It will definitely change, but it's not going to eliminate the need for human beings and their input. And I think that, the film industry and the music industry is really up in arms about AI. But the reality is music has soul. AI doesn't have soul. Movies, you might be able to produce a movie. I think what it's going to do is allow you to produce a movie quicker, less money, but you're still going to need all those elements. So, anyways, the last thing I want to touch on too is IBM. IBM's kind of going through the same shift. It was in the same headline, and it says that IBM has publicly shifted many routine HR administrative tasks to AI while simultaneously increasing the hiring of software engineers, sales, consulting, and customer facing roles. AI changed where people were needed rather than eliminating the need for people altogether. So I think this is a very positive story, especially those that are concerned about AI and the future and their job and their career. It's still there. It's changing, but here's a perfect example. And when Ford hired these engineers back, here's the great part of this story. They hired these engineers back and they put together these different teams, and some of these senior engineers were tasked with a couple things: mentor the junior engineers and help develop and train the AI models to understand what it needs to understand and can do what it needs to do. And to me, after doing all of that, the great proof in the human being is they after 16 years, they got back on the top position for JD Powers, right? I mean, they fell from there. AI didn't help them get back. Human beings helped them get back. So it's a great story.
I think it's been a really good week, Patrick, for people thinking about their future in and around AI and the progress that's coming, because it's going to continue. It's certainly not going to go away. The automation of anything, whether it's leveraging AI or different technology or platforms, that we still need people very involved. And I think there's a lot for us to hang our hat on, so to speak, and point to. Look, the opportunities are there. They're actually there's plenty of them. Ultimately, a product, right? I'll say one thing this way. Ultimately, a product ends up in the hands of a customer. And that customer has to feel like they're getting something that's new or different or exciting or brings something of value to them. And we still need the human edge or touch involved in that process to know, Ferrari, speaking of car makers, Ferrari had that issue over the last 8-10 months, somewhere in that neighborhood, where their electric vehicle, the design of it, I don't know if you heard about this, the design of it was extremely poorly received by their customer base. And Ferrari has a very niche customer base, and a high percentage of Ferrari customers complained about it. And they felt slighted that Ferrari would design and release this car that was so unappealing to the eye, so to speak, to car lovers. So again, these are great lessons, and you have to know your customers, but you also need to have the intellectual capital inside your organization to interpret what customers want and then create it.
The fact that Ferrari would get into the electric car market is blasphemy in and of itself, right? So with that said, though, I think you closed us out pretty good on this first quick take. And I'll tell you, if you're out there and you enjoy these quick takes, subscribe, follow, share, like, do all that stuff you're supposed to do if you like a show, because we're going to keep breaking down the biggest AI stories and what they actually mean for leaders, business owners, and anyone trying to stay ahead. And with that said, Scott, safe travels, and thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, stay connected.